Welcome to the Inclusive Ship Show, the place to get practical insights to make inclusion happen in the business world. I'm Thais Compuan, I'm your host, and today I'm absolutely delighted and honored to be here with Bruce Hock. Bruce, a warm welcome to you. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation.
Hello, Thais. Hello, everybody. I'm really happy to be here too.
I'm really happy too, Bruce. And Bruce is the Corporate Social Responsibility and Solidarity Manager at ADECO France. He's also one of the founding members and one of the former presidents of the French Association for Diversity Managers. And you've done other things, Bruce. And can you please share with us how you became who you are and what exactly you do today in relation to inclusion and diversity?
Sure. Well, life is a path. So let's say I have some 20 years or so of history linked with diversity issues. First started in an NGO called Handicap International in fundraising, then did some executive search, then dealt with disability issues within the ADECO group at corporate level, then diversity in France, then CSR, now CSR Solidarity, and a think tank called Le Labo here in France on HR stakes. So I'm someone who has personal commitments as well as professional commitments on these issues, and I'm really highly linked to non-discrimination issues over here in France and elsewhere, since it's a global problem.
And what's your personal definition of inclusion and diversity?
Let's say it's just the acceptation of alterity of the other. The other is my other me. So let's say it makes people better because it's the reflections of themselves in a way. So I won't have any practical definition of diversity. Diversity is a concept. It's very soft concept, and you can make it say whatever you want. It's really practical. I prefer inclusion that is on the contrary of exclusion. So let's say I prefer in than ex.
Yeah, no, it's interesting to see also because that inclusion. When I started my inclusion and diversity journey in France, and you were really one of my mentors, since the very beginning. And I want to thank you for that. You were really driving completely the inclusion and diversity agenda in France. But I remember back a few years ago, inclusion, that was not a word that we used to hear. It became part of the scene very recently.
And even in France, it's not something that is that well accepted, because many things were led through, let's say, all the legal aspects. And legal is not enough, as you know, when it comes to diversity and non-discrimination. Of course, it's necessary, but it's not enough. Okay. Then you have the mindset change. And mindset are more open to inclusion.
And what is your killer argument to convince people of the value of inclusion and diversity?
Okay, let's say it's worth trying, because you deal with individuals and you deal with collective. If you deal at the individual level, well, let's meet and make myself an advice on what is this person all about within my organization, with the tasks that I have them to be doing, and the idea of a progression. It's when it comes to inclusion issues. Let's say you have someone at the moment A. The interesting thing is the person at the moment B, when the interaction has started. And I think everyone has a potential. Let them happen.
And how do you take people from point A to point B on that inclusion journey?
Okay, the first rule is do not presume for themselves. You have your advice, but let the people express their way and be what they want to be, do what they are really able to do, and what they will be able to do. So it's a matter of behavior, I must say. Let's be positive with the people rather than conservative and only have them do what is written on the task sheet. It's not, well, working is not just that. It's a bit more.
It's kind of assuming the best in people. Am
Yes,
I getting
I
it
think
right?
it's really being positive in the mentality. Of course, you have things that have to be done, but you have so much more on a daily basis. And that's where the relationships evolve. That's where the interactions happen in the collective. It's really how it should be in an organization. And the moment A is necessarily different from the moment B. So let the persons evolve and change your mind. I'm happy to have my mind change on people when it's positive. Meeting and working with someone can be a good surprise.
Yeah.
So you have to make all the context positive so that the surprise happens.
I like that. To let ourselves be surprised, isn't it, by the outcomes? And Bruce, and in terms of, I like the way you put it, it's this transformation of mindsets, taking a person from A to B. Regarding all the initiatives that you've already taken, what was the most effective one regarding that transformation, that we are talking about?
I think the most important thing is all about empowerment of managers, I believe, because the decisions they are there and they have to run their teams. Empowerment of teams, of course, empowerment of individuals, and empowerment of those that need to be included when it comes to acceptation within an organization, when it comes to recruitment processes. There are many things that can be bettered, that people need to consider and they can be participating in. For example, if today I run the Adecco Group Foundation, where we are able to help some people that are at risk on the labor market or that are in the inclusion processes. Well, we can facilitate, and it's a path. Then again, you start with someone at moment A, and you can bring them to employment.
Okay.
And employment on the first day will be different than the one on a year after. The person, they're just like flowers. They will empower themselves and open themselves.
Do you see, what's the correlation that you see between the work that you are doing with the foundation and inclusion and diversity? How do you correlate the things, the two topics?
Well, it depends. Well, it's not about foundations are not corporate foundations are not charities. So we try to have our colleagues be active at the local field on the local territories to be able to take for example, youth, unemployed youth, or even younger students or scholars, pupils that will be helped to think their own way, to be able to project themselves in the future in terms of jobs, in terms of types of activities, in terms of soft skills, to be able to integrate them better in the world of employment.
Regarding inclusion and diversity, Bruce, what is the most common objection you come across, and how do you respond to that?
Okay, I think the most common objection is it takes too much time. Okay, time is an important parameter. Change management does not happen just by stating something or signing a charter. I love charters; they're a good tool, but I believe it's a long-run process where you need to monitor things. When you need to monitor first that non-discrimination is a reality within a company, and for example, I think that testings discrimination tests which are led in France are very important to legitimate the issue within the companies. Then it's not because you have non-discrimination that you have diversity. So then you have all the stereotypes things that take time to neutralize. Everybody has stereotypes, everybody has biases. The only concern is that you need to neutralize them when you're at work and when you're deciding in recruitment process, for example.
Yeah, and
so it takes time.
Can you explain to us, for those of our listeners who are not familiar with the concept of testing, can you explain to us the methodology and how the testings are carried out?
Okay, there are in France and I think at European level, you have acknowledgement that this discrimination tests can be receivable by the equality bodies of the countries. In France, for example, here within the ADECO group, since 2008, we started external testing by an association that uses the methodology set by the ILO, International Labour Office, and basically it's sending two different applications to an author. One having distinctive criteria, that is one of the discrimination criteria acknowledged by the French law, for example. And then you measure the discrepancies that you will have from a situation from candidate A to candidate B. And if you have many occurrences that the candidate B with the same criteria on different offers is being discriminated against, you have a serious reason to assume that the company has a discrimination. Okay. But it's not one discrepancy that makes the discrimination in a recruitment process.
You need
a
critical mass.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and then I think testings are really positive because well, they help construct non-discrimination and diversity actions.
In concretely speaking, yeah, sorry, please go ahead.
They help objectivate. The issue is all about objectivation.
And you said that at ADECO, you've been using the testing as a tool.
Sure.
Concretely speaking, does it mean that you run testing?
We don't. We have a supplier that does that for us. It's something neutral, external, and it's being done by that company, that association. It's an association.
Okay, I guess this is a great tool, especially to be used with people who are at denial of the risk of discrimination, isn't it? In so many companies, people, they think that it's possible elsewhere, but not here with us.
Risk zero does not exist.
Yeah.
And the only thing is when it happens, if it happens, it has to be something individual, not from the system of the company. The company has to prevent everything, and you state rules. You have clear policies. It's the application of the rules that is made by the people. Then in the end, so it's the people that create or not the discrimination, and on the other hand, inclusion.
And what do you have to say to people who say that inclusion and diversity initiatives, they go against the meritocracy principle?
Oh,
for some people, for those who say, who associate diversity with positive discrimination or with quotas, and what's your how do you position yourself regarding all of that?
Personally, let's accept the law, and quota to some extent are being operated by the law. I think they're a good temporary item to make diversity and inclusion real within organization. But if you reach the quota and you suppress the quota, what happens? And I think that's the next step. We need to ensure that companies and organizations, it's not about only companies, it's all about organization, companies, public administration, etc., etc. They reach a diversity point that is non-reversible, and that will be the interesting step. And then we will discuss of withdrawing quotas. But we don't have quotas on everything in France. Huh? It's just a step.
Yeah, I like this idea of, reaching that point where it's irreversible.
Oh, you can't.
Yeah.
And I think the civil society has evolved, and the people within organizations, they have evolved too. So it's all you need to assess the people that are within organizations, that they agree and comply with your internal or external regulations. Whether it is the law or the corporate policy, but let them be actors of the change.
And Bruce, you have so much experience leading inclusion and diversity for your own organization, for Adecco, inspiring others, also through the work of the AFMD, the French Association for Diversity Managers. And my question for you is, given all your experience, what is the mistake number one to avoid when you want to be successful in this area?
First is I think time is again something we need to be cautious with. It takes time to change. So of course, organizations, they go fast. You need to have quick wins. You need to have effective measures with a certain amount of time that is quite short, because you have you have KPIs, and you have to improve your KPIs. Sometimes change must take a little longer than expected, and you need to convince everyone within the organization. So you need to repeat. So basically, you have to repeat, and once the people are convinced, you don't need to repeat anymore. So it's all about what I was saying at the beginning: empowerment. Let the others, those that are not paid to deal with diversity in terms of policy, deal with diversity within their teams as an employee of the company, etc., etc. And then you demultiplicate, and it's really efficient and worth it in terms of return on investment, because it creates a company culture. It's good for employer branding. It's good for the economy, and all about unleashing the potential of populations that were discriminated against. It's good for the positive climate within the company. It's good for the positive climate on the territory where the company operates. It's good for the economy in the end.
Yeah, so many benefits to it, and yet it doesn't come naturally, isn't it? We have to keep pushing and pushing.
Yes, but it's an issue that is worth it, that is positive, and that you can't escape in a way. So, why resist?
And do you have anything to say to, the inclusion and diversity practitioners who are listening to us, and who are at a moment of, they are, because I really believe to be in this field, you have to be passionate, and you also have to be resilient, because as you mentioned a few times, Bruce, it takes time. You have to keep going and repeating your message. What do you have anything special to say to those people who are maybe going through a crisis moment? They are a little bit tired. They need some motivation or some inspiration to keep going.
My tip would be try and experiment on a narrow field. The good ideas that you want to expand broader. So do your business case with maybe a little perimeter within your organization, and you will see that if it's successful, it will expand everywhere. So that's why time is important. That's why you can improve even your own processes, and you can have a sample of people that will be convinced with you, and you will go broader with other that will support you.
Okay, it's kind of building a network of allies first,
yes,
and then
you need allies. You need you need people that are convinced that change is there and that they have to be actors, and you need role models within the organization too.
And what's the best way, in your opinion, to deal with non-inclusive behaviors?
Okay, I think if people are, let's say, non-inclusive, I'll say you have non-inclusive and the people who discriminate. People who discriminate, you need sanction. People that are non-inclusive, you need to, well, train them a bit better. Put them in situations that are maybe not the ones they will go on their own. Do things with them and have them maybe work volunteering in an organization and meet their other self. Meet other people from all the diversity issues that are cumulative.
It sounds like, you know, sometimes when you do something that is wrong, and then your sanction is to do community work.
It's not about a sanction. I think, well, non-inclusion is not something that is conscientized by the people.
Sorry,
it's just it's not something that they conscientize. They don't feel they are they don't have time for inclusion. They want their business to be run immediately. They don't have time for questions. Let's give them time for questions. Take them out for a day out, volunteering or meeting people from other business units, or meet a client that does all their diversity policy, or meet a supplier. I think it's by meeting people that you change your mindset.
Great. And do you have do you have any favorite quotes or favorite books or favorite TED Talks, you know, any very special resources that you'd like to share with us?
Well, your TED Talks are very good, Thais, and your books. Well, there are a few. I will of course recommend the excellent work by the European Network Against Racism, the Equal at Work platform that makes material available on their website, and it's a good way to work on the tools that you need within an organization. I will of course promote the ILO Global Business and Disability Network that gives a good tools to vehicle inclusion for people with disabilities all over the world. Let's promote the many books and videos from the French Association of Diversity Manager, AFMD.fr, that are available on their website for everyone, and that give good examples from the French environment, but also from other environments in terms of inclusion. Let's say on 1 criteria, 2 criteria, and then a vision for companies.
In Bruce, you have a lot of experience, obviously, in France, but you do have this international mindset as well. What do you think it characterizes, you know, the French landscape when it comes to inclusion and diversity? What is particular? Where is this really specific about the French culture in its approach to inclusion and diversity?
Well, I think the French law will be the first thing that you realize when you arrive in France. In France, you have 24 criteria of discrimination. So you can say you have many more criteria of diversity. So it's something that is consistent, is that in France, people like to put people in one category, and they do not assume that you have multiple sections of diversities within one single person. So I try to always push the issue of multiple diversities, multiple identities of yourself, whether your convictions, your visible self, your inner self are supposed to be various and intimate. And this is how it comes to me. diversity is not something that you will be realizing for yourself, but that people outside assume for you. So let's just be you.
And we are getting to the end of our interview, Bruce. Any final thoughts, any final pieces of advice for our listeners?
I think the main topic when you work on change management is to be able to question yourself on a regular basis. Do not assume that it's done. Do not assume. Try to improve your work. Try to convince one people a day, or try to bring a good practice a week. Bring some stories that have worked. Learn from failures. I think it's something that is really important. So and be humble, because it's not an easy path.
Yeah.
So everyone has to provide their effort to bring a world with more inclusion and diversity.
And how, maybe that's really my very, very final question. How do you see the future? What do you think is trending now?
I think people are much more in the digital economy, and they have less time for questions on the good side and the bad side. On the good side, the difference is just a good business opportunity. On the bad side, I don't have time that's what I was saying previously. I don't have time to worry. My business is immediate. So I think digital can help. Also, having non-discriminating processes as well as inclusion processes, they will be helped by artificial intelligence, for example. I think you can secure a few things, but you have to be cautious on what you learn to the machines. So your app will be happy to help, but you need to have your own good sense to analyze the situation.
Yeah, artificial intelligence can help, but you need to check. You need to.
It's just a tool
to monitor.
Yeah, it's the people that do the programmation that need to be trained, and that you need to secure in the end.
Great, thank you so much, Bruce. And
thank you, Thais.
Thank you. It's been such a great conversation. And if anyone wants to reach out to you to ask you questions, what would be the best way?
Well, you can find my details very easily on the web, bruce.roch at adecogroup.com.
Great, perfect.
And I'll be happy to help.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks everyone who listened to us today. I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. Please feel free to share your key takeaways in the comments. Feel free to like this episode if you liked it, share it. And if you want to find out more about my work supporting companies on their inclusion journey, please visit my website, www.declickinternational.com, www.declicinternational.com. I hope to see you in the next episode. Until then, embrace differences and make a difference. Bye. Bye, Bruce.
Bye-bye.